We are all aware of Hurricane Ian, who has been causing many problems, many difficulties, much destruction, and even some death through Cuba, Florida, South Carolina, and other places in those areas. And perhaps when something like that happens, we stop and say to ourselves, God, where are you? Are you present? Are you here? Are you paying attention? Moments of adversity happen in each and every one of our lives. Sometimes on a grand scale, and sometimes in smaller ways. But how we deal with adversity speaks to who we are. How we deal with adversity speaks to what and who is our foundation. If we have God as our foundation, if each and every day we invite Him into every part of our life, good and difficult, then in the midst of adversity, we may find ourselves questioning God and wondering where He is. But somewhere inside of ourselves, we will realize that believing that God does care, believing He is paying attention, brings us much more peace than striving to live on our own. Last Saturday in the newspaper, there was a story of a young man who's now a senior in high school. And he was in an accident, and both his legs had to be amputated. And if you happen to read the article, or perhaps you can go online later and read it, this young man handled the adversity well. Doesn't mean there weren't difficulties. Doesn't mean there weren't times where he perhaps looked up to God. But he trusted that God was there. He said this in the article: I haven't really told this to too many people, but I saw Jesus the day of the accident. I also saw the devil. As the tractor was coming down on me, Jesus put me into a cradle and had His hand up on the cab of the tractor. I saw His face. I saw Him. I saw everything. The crane truck which caused the accident was in the yard. I saw the devil perched up on it. He couldn't do anything because Jesus was standing there. That's why I have never questioned why this happened. We can listen to that and say, he must have been hallucinating, must be a problem. It couldn't have happened that way. Or we can choose to believe that Jesus was there. My friends, in our moments of adversity, we can choose to believe that Jesus is there, or we can choose to believe that we're all alone. When adversity hits those we love and care for, when adversity hits our world with people we don't even know, we can choose to believe that God is there, or we can choose to believe we are alone. The first reading said, I cry for help, but you do not listen. I cry out to you violence, but you do not intervene. Perhaps we come here this day with something that is troubling our hearts deeply. Perhaps we come here this day with some adversity that's happening to someone we care for, happening in our world. And we say, Lord, I cry out violence, and you don't intervene. My friends, the Lord does intervene. He is always there. And we can probably all look at times in our lives when perhaps we got through something that we don't know how we got through it. The Psalm said, if today you hear His voice, harden not your hearts. Are we hardening our hearts? Have we closed off our hearts to allow the Lord to come in? Or are we only allowing him in when good things happen? And the problem is sometimes when good things happen, we forget that God is there because good things are happening. If we decide each day to open our hearts, God, today I'm going to open my heart to you. Whenever good and whatever difficulty happens, I know you will be there. Second reading said, stir into flame the gift of God that you have through the imposition of my hands. For God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but rather of power and love and self-control. When we rely solely on our power, life is much more difficult than it needs to be. When we rely on God's power, then no matter what is happening in our lives or the lives of those we love, we trust that God does understand. We trust that there is something greater than this world waiting for us. The gospel. Increase our faith. My guess is we've all said that at least once or twice in our lives today. Lord, increase our faith. If we're honest, adversity in our lives often makes us stronger. Adversity in the lives of others around us in our world can make us stronger because it gives us proper perspective. If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, it's so small. Today we ask God for faith the size of a mustard seed and to trust that he'll take care of everything else. Adversity strikes, storms, hurricanes, accidents that happen. Adversity strikes each and every day, and we can choose to rely solely on ourselves, or we could choose to invite God in the midst of that adversity. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. May we hear his voice today, not just in our ears, but in our hearts. And whatever adversity, whatever difficulty we brought with us this day, may we place it in God's hands. May we ask God to increase our faith so that we will believe that he does care and that he is present.